Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Big O Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Ortiz, and today on the podcast, I am joined by feature producer for Sportsnet and Scarborough native, Adrian Cheddie. Adrian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Did I butcher your last name? I should have probably asked you what your last name, how you say your last name. How do you say
Cheddie.
it? Cheddie.
Yeah.
Should have figured that out by the conversations that we had prior to the podcast starting, and understanding it's probably a West Indian name or an English name as we sort of talked about. But how's everything going? I know you're in the middle of sort of recovering from a move. Yeah. How's that?
Moving, adjusting to Mississauga from Scarborough to downtown Mississauga is a whole new different lifestyle for me. So I'm just trying to figure out where my spots are, how to get around. As you can see from my room right here, it's pink, and that's going to be changed hopefully in a few days so I can get some paint. But overall, it's been good, man. Can't complain.
Listen, you got to get the Flip app. I'll tell you right now, great. Not a sponsor by any means, but like great for finding paint cheap. And if you need to find a good place, I can let you know, because as we found out just before we started recording this, you're actually like 7 minutes away from I am right now, which is kind of crazy. So if you need any Mississauga tips, like good roti,
that's your boy.
I got you. No problem.
The one thing I'm worried about is I saw, because of the lockdown, Home Depot is not going to be open anymore. It's like curbside pickup. So I got to get my paint and stuff before all this closed down.
Well, that's interesting, because it's considered essential service, because I've gone to Lowe's throughout all of this, and Mississauga has been in the gray zone. For anyone who's not living in Canada, we're all moving to like a province statewide lockdown. But you should be, because I'm fairly certain it is considered a essential service. You should be able to, but if not, we'll be able to find you some paint. Don't worry, I got the sales for you.
My guy.
But listen, we sort of are connecting because a mutual friend of ours, Julio Ramirez, who I've had on the podcast a couple of times, and we talked sports, we talked baseball, and immediately after our last recording sends me a message and was like, hey, listen, you love talking sports. I got this guy. I think he'd be a great, fit for the podcast. He also loves sports. Should we make it happen? And lo and behold, a few DMs later, we're here, we're talking. What is it like for you? Because I mentioned feature producer off the top. You're a guy behind the scenes. What's it like for you right now in front of the camera?
It's a bit different. Can't lie. I feel like I have the face for radio, so it's definitely a bit different me from the camera. But I do love talking sports. I love chatting in general about anything and everything. So I'm happy to do this. Happy to connect with good people. Happy to be referred to from good people. So let's get it cracking.
Yeah, no, one of the things, again, we talked about before the podcast is you're a feature producer for Sportsnet, and you work with the likes of Donovan Bennett. And we've had Donovan Bennett on the show, stand-up, phenomenal guy, great at his craft, and just an overall good dude. What was it like getting an opportunity and continuous opportunities to work with someone like Donovan?
It's been unreal. Like I was telling you earlier, Donovan's a mentor to me, and I honestly would not be, I could with 100% confidence say I would not be where I am without Donovan Bennett. The amount of support that he gives everybody that he works with, and I know this on a personal level, the amount of support that he's given me has been tremendous. The advice he's given me, the freedom to really expand as a producer. Because when I started at Sportsnet, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to get to sports. So when I started off as the intern and then kind of worked in the archives department, I would help Donovan kind of find some footage. And then through that, I developed a friendship with him and a working relationship with him. And then he's like, why don't you just kind of take the lead on producing this thing for me? Because Donovan has like a million things on his plate. And he's one guy that has so many things on his plate, but still has time to do it. And I asked him, like, how do you do a podcast, write an article, go on Tim and Sid, produce this feature with this athlete, go here and there, take care of your kid, be with your family, and still have time to sleep. Like, I don't know how he does it. But he gave me the opportunity sometimes to produce some of the stuff. And since then, we just been rolling. So right now we're doing the year in review for Sportsnet that I'm hoping would come out Christmas Eve. I think it's supposed to be scheduled to come out. Don't quote me on that, but definitely it's going to come out this week, if not next. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good one.
And that's sort of like a perfect segue to, I said we were going to talk about a few things on the podcast, which is not normally a thing I would do with guests, but I felt like, you know what, let me prepare you just in case. And I thought this would be a great episode because this is going to be airing just after Christmas, probably either New Year's Eve or just before. And I figured, let's dive into some topics, some sports news from the past year, because it's been a crazy year.
Yeah.
COVID, social activism, it's just been all over the place. And with that being said, I want to just sort of get into my number one story for 2020. And as I'm going, feel free to jump in, give me your takes. I want to know, because the first thing that comes to my mind that seems like forever ago, but still can't believe it's been just less than a year, was the passing of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And Gigi and the 7 others on the helicopter in the now like well viewed, documented, discussed, helicopter crash. I think it was January 19th, if I'm not wrong. I believe it was. I know it was in January, but shocked the sports world. Where were you when this happened?
So I was at home and I was getting ready. I think it was a Sunday it happened.
Yes.
Saturday or Sunday, but yeah, okay, Sunday. And I was at home and I was watching a show with my then fiance, and I was getting ready to go to work. And then her friend messaged her and said, "Hey, how is Adrian doing with the Kobe news?" And the night before, LeBron just passed Kobe, I think on the scoring list or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. I like LeBron, but no, I'm not. Just kind of joke about him a bit much. I have a lot of friends that love him, so I guess that's the reason why I kind of crack on a little bit. But anyway, so she's like, "How's Adrian with the Kobe news?" So she goes, "Oh, how are you with the Kobe news? So and so wants to know." And I'm like, "Who cares? LeBron passed and whatever. Kobe has 5 championships. So what I care about LeBron passing on the list?" And then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, why in the world would my fiance's friend care about what I feel about Kobe? So then I think I was watching Netflix. I turned it off, went to CNN, and there was like, oh my God, plane crash, Kobe Bryant pronounced dead. And I was just in shock. I could not believe it. Like, Kobe has been someone that I've watched my whole life. We had the same birthday.
Wow.
I watched him my whole career. I ruptured my Achilles, and I right away he is the first person I thought about when I ruptured my Achilles back in 2013, because I've watched him for so many years, and I try to idolize how he's played, his mentality, and then to see that, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, nothing in the sports world has ever hit me that hard in my life.
I too am a huge Laker fan. I'm from Southern California. I was born in LA, moved to Canada when I was young, but the Lakers have always been my squad through the good times and the not so good times. And I remember, similar to you, the Sunday my wife was upstairs with she was pregnant at the time. Yeah, she was pregnant at the time. And no, sorry, our baby was just about to turn 1 in March.
Okay.
So she's upstairs, she's with the baby, and I'm with our oldest daughter, and I'm watching like the news. I was watching cartoons, and somebody messaged me. It was like, "Hey man, like, how you holding up?" Very similar to you, with Kobe. I'm like, that's fine. I didn't even think anything into it. I don't even care that LeBron passes them. To me, it's irrelevant. Kobe's always the number one guy. And so I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Kobe's doing his thing, like Mamba Academy. Like, it's Gigi is going to go to UConn and rip it up. Like, Kobe's great. And then I get a message from my best friend, and he's like, "Hey, did you see the news?" And I was like, "All right, what's going on here?" So I flip on CP24, and just the headline of helicopter crash, and no one's saying any names yet because at this point they're not really sure. And then once it comes down that it's Kobe Bryant, I immediately just start bawling. And this is not bawling like your favorite TV character just died on a show and you're just like so emotional. It's bawling like a family member just left, and it was way too soon, and it was so unexpected. And for probably about 4 hours, I was steadily just like in tears. And my daughter went upstairs and told my wife, and my wife came down. She's like, "Are you okay? Like, it's gonna be fine." And then you have those moments where like you're doing okay, and then like my dad
Yeah,
called me, and then I was just like I couldn't talk. It was like
yeah,
I got like two words out, and for me, it was more than just Kobe being the amazing basketball player and the representative of the game and such a great ambassador of the sport. It was also the fact that we now had this other connection of both being like girl dads, which he has
right.
like there have been dads before Kobe that have had
Mm,
just daughters, but he like really made the girl dad thing
yeah,
popular. And with two daughters of my own, I'm thinking like, Gigi, I'm thinking Vanessa, I'm thinking the family. And I'm remembering that Kobe only returned back to watching games at the Staples Center when Gigi said, "Hey, can we go to a game?" Because Kobe, once he
mm,
retired, he just sort of like left it. He was kind of
right.
like, "I'm a dad now. This is like
Mm,
chapter 2. My NBA career is finished."
right.
And he's just starting the next chapter. And Mamba Academy and Gigi, and you saw all the footage after Kobe sort of passed with like them putting up shots in the gym. And for me, it was like the most heart wrenching thing because there was so much left in the story,
Yeah, so
right? Like
many,
there's
so many.
just so many blank pages that were waiting
Right.
to get filled. And we all had expectations. Gigi's going to go to UConn. She's probably going to go to the WNBA. She might very well be the greatest women's basketball player
Mm,
of all time,
right.
and sort of ripped away from us. And so for me, that's my number one story. So on a
Yeah.
ranking of like 1 to 5, in your opinion, where does like a Kobe Bryant sort of fall?
Kobe is number one to me as well, just because it hits me, like it hits me hard. Like COVID obviously hits everybody, but
Yeah.
if you grew up watching Kobe, if you saw the five championships, you saw the MVP, you saw him struggling when Shaq left, you saw him come back and win it. Like that's your childhood, that's your teenage life, that's your adulthood for parts for some of it. So that's a big part of your life that just disappeared. And I was having this conversation at my barbershop, and we're wondering like, is there another athlete that can affect you that much right now outside of maybe LeBron? But I think it's like a 1A, 1B, but I can't think of one. Maybe Ronaldo, but that'll be more on the European scale. Like for North America, I think Kobe's the guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like Kobe didn't have as many haters and non-believers as LeBron
Mm,
does, right? I
right,
feel like
exactly.
LeBron grew up in the shadow of Michael Jordan with the comparisons, like the unfair comparisons, and which is why I love the debate of who's the greatest of all time. I
Mm,
side with MJ, but I also think that MJ didn't begin his basketball career with the expectation that he was going to be
mm,
the greatest basketball player of all time. So he
right,
doesn't have the same burden to succeed as LeBron did at 14 years old, right?
right.
Like Jordan was taken to the first round, wasn't taken first overall.
Yeah.
They weren't talking about him being the greatest basketball player at 13, 14, 15, 16, being on SI covers in high school and all of that fun stuff. But LeBron's had to wear that. And because of that, they obviously have haters. And I
Mm,
think what LeBron has been able to do um, with his platform is second to none.
yeah. He.
He's also on this list. He comes in at number 3 for me. But I think what he's been able to do with the resources that he's had and impact the amount of families and communities,
Mm,
what he's done is unmatched, absolutely
yeah.
unmatched by anybody else right now.
I put him in the same category as Ali in terms of dealing with social justice.
Yeah,
What LeBron does is, yeah, it's for right now. It's second to none. No, he leads that train. Um, he runs that mile ahead of everybody else. LeBron is definitely, I agree, second to none. But with the Jordan part as well, as much as I love Jordan, and I do think he is the greatest basketball player of all time, and I hope he doesn't pass away. I'm not saying this like to jinx it, but if he was to pass through, I just don't think it will reach the same level as Kobe because Kobe stayed relevant to some degree after he retired. Jordan's very behind the scenes. He does things in the shadows. Outside of the Last Dance, not a lot of people probably knew what Jordan did, like a lot of like younger players, right?
sure.
But people still know Kobe. His shoes are still relevant. His game was still relevant. He was only 4 years, 5 years removed from the NBA. And you see him at WNBA games. You see him courtside, hugging Luka at the courtside or a Trae Young. So Kobe was still relevant. So yeah, not to keep harping on his past, it's just bring back these memories, and because Kobe was just that guy.
Yeah, shout out, rest in peace, Mamba. Um, one of again, it's like we discussed this before. Going into number two, you sort of set it up when you compared Ali with the social justice
Mm,
initiatives that he did. I mean, obviously, for a younger generation, they know the name of Ali as one of the greatest, but they
yeah,
don't know the sacrifice that he made during his prime to not fight in a war that he did not believe in. And
right.
so, with that Muhammad Ali comparison, number two on my list is Maya Moore. Maya
Mm,
Moore, WNBA player who played for the Minnesota Lynx, also won 2 gold medals, 4 WNBA championships, sat out for her second consecutive season. So didn't play last year, didn't play this year because she really wanted to focus on being able to help people that were in jail,
mm,
and I'm trying to think of what like the right word would be, but it's like because he was innocent. And so
mm,
she decides to sit out, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to help this person. I'm going to put all of my resources in to being able to help get him free, to make sure
mm.
that everyone knows what's going on. And sure enough, in I believe July of this year, Jonathan Irons is released from jail, and then they announced in September that they get married. And so
Oh,
Maya Moore, based on in her prime, decorated WNBA star, understood that there was a higher importance to what she could do that was more than just a game.
mm,
And for me, I think that's just, incredible, especially when we look at the social injustice that happened or continued to happen and was really under the magnoscope here,
mm.
or the microscope of 2020, right? When we have,
Right.
Breonna Taylor, we have George Floyd, we
George
have
Floyd.
so many other people, and she's out here saying, listen, there's not going to be another person. I'm going to make sure that I do what I can
Mm.
and affects change. Like, what are your thoughts on the Maya Moore saga?
Just the WNBA in general, like they should get a lot more love than that they do get because they always seem to find a way to lead the charge in some sort of way. Like I feel like women in general always are the ones leading the revolution forward, and that's just a testament to them for what they have done over the years and what they continue to do. And no one really knows too much about it, but when you hear about it, it's like you're taken back. Like wow, like this is what like. There's so much more to these athletes than what meets the eye, and then all you could do is just get a round of applause because it means so much to so many people on so many different levels.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. We have, and I can't remember which one it was. That's how bad it is trying to remember exactly everything that's going on. But the Milwaukee Bucks after the
Jacob
bubble.
Blake.
There we go, Jacob Blake.
Jacob Blake.
Milwaukee Bucks after the bubble resumes.
Mm,
There's another shooting. Milwaukee decides that they're not going to play, right?
right.
And a lot of people respected that. The WNBA actually decided to sit out games.
Mm,
So it wasn't just one. It was like show up to the court and then decide not to play as a move
right.
of solidarity. Their first game in the bubble, I believe, they decide that Breonna Stewart takes the mic and says we're going to have a 26-second moment of
Mm,
silence for Breonna Taylor. So as you so perfectly said, the WNBA does not get the love that they deserve, but
mm,
they are really at the forefront of a lot of these movements. And, they're fighting to this day. We saw it happen with
yeah.
US soccer, the women's national
Mm,
team fighting for equal pay.
mm,
It is time for things to sort of change a little bit. And you hit it on the
definitely.
head. I think it starts and will end with the female movement, which we have seen really gain steam over the last, couple of years.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I said, when revolution starts, usually the ladies that lead the way. And this is a prime example of them doing that. I remember when the Jacob Blakes happened. I can't remember which team it was. It was Seattle, but they wore the T-shirt that said Jacob Blake, and then they had the 7 shots in the back. I just thought that image itself was so powerful. Not saying what the Bucks did, everyone else did, but just seeing those shots in the back to make you really feel the pain that these families are going through out on these streets. So it was unbelievable.
Yeah, the visuals were definitely, made their mark and
Hmm.
definitely hit home. And going to number three, I talked about LeBron James. LeBron James, my daughter's actually just got a book from some of our really good friends for Christmas, and the book is called I Promise.
Nice.
It's all about LeBron James. It's like a cartoon book. It all talks about, doing your best. And I'm not gonna lie, like 2 pages in, my wife had to start reading it because, like, I don't know what was going on with me, but I'm just like, to me, hearing and seeing everything that LeBron James has been able to do, again, as we
Mm,
spoke about, given the circumstances, and really making sure that he's taking care of the next generation of young black kids and
mm,
making sure that they can be successful, whether they're underprivileged, whatever their socioeconomic situation is. He
mm,
is making sure that they all have a future. Not only that, but he also organizes to make sure that stadiums are used for polling stations for the
yeah.
for the election, are making sure that people are registering to vote.
Yeah,
Like,
he
he really,
donated, well, how much he donated? Was it 10 million or something like that, or a million to the Florida voters
yeah,
for incarcerated people incarcerated in Florida to vote, to have the right to vote.
yeah. And so everything that he does
Hmm.
off of the basketball court is just, it's just incredible because Michael Jordan, as you said, Michael Jordan didn't really deal with that. When we saw The Last Dance, we saw a little bit of what was asked of him when I think there was an election going on, whether it was like a Senate
Yeah,
or mayoral election, and he was like, "No, I'm just a basketball player. This is just what I do."
right.
LeBron James was like at the forefront of things, saying, "Listen, I stand with Colin Kaepernick. I
Yeah,
will start this school. I will make sure that we do all of these things, and I will lead the charge on behalf of the NBA and its players to make a difference and make a change and use our platforms to
mm,
be able to have, success for our future." And I find it very hard to find another athlete that has the same platform and have used the same platform for such good as the way he did.
yeah, and there's no better person to do it than the biggest basketball player in the world. And he uses it, like you said, better than anyone else. And the recognition that he gives these movements, um, and the light that he shines in it is something that, yeah, like no one else. I can't see, like, Kawhi Leonard's not doing that. Kevin Durant's not going to do it the way LeBron does it. But and LeBron goes at the president. Like, he doesn't back down from anyone. Like, if he is against you for the right reasons, he's going to make sure that everybody knows about it. And more times than not, anyone's going to support him, unless you're Laura Ingraham, who thinks he should shut up and play basketball. But then he opens up a school for kids, and then what's she going to say now?
Yeah. Not only does he set up a school, like, one of the cool things that I love about this is that, like, the first graduating class all have like guaranteed scholarships to
Yeah,
Akron University. And when you look at like their school like marks, they're in like the highest percentile. So it's not like they're just giving kids money or trying to like stack the system. Like, they're really educating and making sure that they're setting students up for success, and that's incredible. And then just recently, within the last like week or so, LeBron James has also bought like a plot of land to build affordable housing.
oh
um,
yeah,
and so again, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
yeah.
And Donald Trump didn't love that because Donald Trump would tweet at him, calling him all sorts of names. But
Uh,
if you're getting called out by the president, and you see the other names that are getting called out by a
yeah,
president, you're in good company.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you're not doing anything wrong. You're probably on the right side of history when this is all said and
Mm-hmm.
done. So kudos to LeBron James. And I'm sure if they were to have done a visit, they're definitely going to the White House to see Joe Biden
Oh, for
because,
sure. And
they
Kamala
want
Harris.
they want to start exactly Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
So they want to start back that
Yeah.
tradition that has been boycotted for the last couple of years under the Trump regime.
Yeah. Actually, I would love to be Kamala Harris. I think outside of Barack Obama, she's the like Barack Obama's the first politician I ever loved to meet, and then Kamala Harris is right behind her. I think she's I think she would have been a great president. I think she will be one day, but I mean that's another conversation for another day. Quick question for you, because I
Yes,
can
sir.
tell that you're a big Laker fan, but then you're wearing a Dodgers hat. So which championship brought you more joy this year?
Okay, so that's actually number 5 on
Oh,
my list.
oh,
You're,
did I
you're
jump?
killing it.
Okay, did I
No,
jump
no, no,
in?
it's cool. So in all honesty, because anyone who listens to this knows my allegiances. I'm a Laker fan.
Mhm.
That's how my dad raised me. I grew up in LA. Kobe was my guy. My dad flipped to being a Clippers fan somewhere
Oh,
down the line. couldn't have brought me more joy because he's on the losing end of a bet now where I get a nice, framed LeBron James jersey coming my way
Yeah,
from my office. But I'm actually a
never a
Boston
bad
Red
thing.
Sox fan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So let
So,
me just stop you there for a quick second. I don't know if Julio told you this. I am a massive, massive New York Yankees fan. Like I was
oh,
like 2 years old, huge Yankee fan. Like Kobe was my guy, but Jeter is like my god when it comes to like my sports mentors. So I'm sure we could get into that later, but just wanted to
see,
let that spill a little bit.
for me, I always respected what the Yankees were doing. I
Mm,
mean, I never liked them. I never would root for them, but like I understood that they were like the best of the best. And for many years, it was like the best players in the MLB were on the Boston Red Sox and on the New York Yankees, and it sucked when we had to go through each other early on to get to a World Series. So it's funny enough for me, my Red Sox fandom actually started um, in the 2004 playoffs, and for me, I loved sports, but I didn't really
mm,
develop like allegiances until like later in life. I just loved watching them and I loved playing
yeah.
them. And for me, my sports fandom usually starts cheering for like an underdog. So for me,
Yeah.
being down 3-0 against the New York Yankees, who, Aaron Boone crushes the heart of the Red Sox the year before,
Uh,
I was like, you know what? Yeah, Red Sox 3-0. Why not? Why not us? And I just jumped on the Red Sox
uh,
bandwagon, and that was it for me. And since then, my last name being Ortiz, obviously David Ortiz is there. So Big Poppy, there's my connection. That was where my fandom began. And every couple of years, I have something to cheer about.
mm,
Not this
that's
year.
actually, yeah. But I'm just thinking we live in 2004. That was such a tough time for me. I didn't go to school for a week after that. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to age myself again, but I had this like little, I remember, do you remember back in the day they used to have these keychains,
Oh
little
yeah!
guys? So I had this since I was like grade five, and it stayed with me ever since. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, 2004 was a tough year. 2003 was a great year for that ALCS, but the World Series. But
And
yeah. So who'd you cheer for when Dodgers played the Red Sox?
so I cheered for the Red Sox. And my sister, who lives in LA, cheers for the Dodgers, and her
Dodgers.
kid's a huge Dodger fan. So I actually made a wager. I said, I will bargain. I will bet my oldest daughter's, fandom, who she's going to grow up cheering on whoever wins this World Series. So if the Dodgers win, I'm going to raise her as a Dodger fan. And if the Red Sox win, that's going to be her allegiance. And then on top of that, if the Red Sox win, the whole family had to wear Boston Red Sox gear for like a couple photos. And
Oh man.
that stung more than anything. And so I'm not usually one to chirp during a series because
Mm.
I always seem to curse my team. But I was getting on my sister when, Mookie was doing his thing and the Red Sox
Yeah.
were, Chris Sale was about to have his arm fall off, but not before
Uh,
he, won his World Series. And so that was one of the more fun World Series that I can remember. But going back to what you asked me this year, I wanted the Dodgers to win. I thought,
yeah,
Mookie going
Mookie
over.
Betts. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Mookie there.
Yeah. So Mookie, my guy who did absolutely nothing wrong during his time other than just being too good and too
Mm,
expensive for the Red Sox to be able to keep. I said, you know what, like let him go. He's the piece that the Dodgers have been knocking on the door.
mm,
It's about time that they win. And the last time they actually won was like the year I was born. So like in 88. So for me, it was
mm.
like, this was the year for the Dodgers. And then like, that's it. I hope they all get like Tommy John and injured and then the Red Sox win the next three. But I really wanted the Dodgers to do it for Vin Scully, for that organization, for
Right.
Magic.
Mm.
Magic being affiliated with the Dodgers, he now has like a championship and all of these
Yeah.
different things. He's got like
Yeah,
it's
wins and
crazy.
everything.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I really wanted them to do well. And so I'm happy that the Dodgers pulled it out. But are you a Yankee fan that can't cheer for anyone else? Like, do you cheer
No,
for the umpires when the Yankees aren't playing?
no, I am like I want the Jays to do well. So people wanted to say how can you like the Jays when they're same division. Throughout
I
my
get that.
life, the Jays have never challenged the Yankees, right? The Yankees have always been the AL East champs or the wild card. The Jays kind of fell within fourth and fifth in the division. So they never really were a rival to me. The Red Sox were a rival. For some reason, Tampa Bay always used to piss me off too, even when they suck. Um, and I like Miami now because Jeter's running that ship, and my allegiance to Jeter is never going to go away. So Miami's my third team. But no, I could cheer for other teams as well. I wanted the Dodgers to win because, believe it or not, I'm a big Mookie fan. It's crazy. I was a fan of Bogarts, Bradley, and Mookie when on the Red Sox. And
That's tough.
it was
That's
so
tough.
hard. Yeah, because there's such good players. I remember when I saw Bradley play against the Yankees his rookie year, and I think I tweeted out like, this guy's just going to be such a problem because to me he was just so good. And watching Bogarts play and then Mookie was just unbelievable from the gate. It was hard to cheer against them, and they're just good dudes. Like they weren't like the Kevin Youkilis's of the world who I couldn't stand, right? Or like John Rocker on Atlanta, guys like that who I just hated. Even though Youkilis became a Yankee, which was weird.
Yeah, so did Johnny Damon after that fateful
Yeah,
World Series. Like that was to me probably like one of the hardest things to see. And when he took like the fake beard off at the press conference, I'm just like, I hate this guy. Like I
yeah,
can't believe I ever cheered for him as a Red Sox player. But then I'm like, this is great because you hit the ball to center field and the guy has a noodle for an arm. I'm like, this
yeah. You
actually
can't
works
throw.
better for the Red Sox. So
Yeah, he did well for us in '09, which I was happy for. We won the championship, but yeah, there's some guy like even Ortiz. Believe it or not, I think I like Ortiz more than I like A-Rod.
of course. Oh well,
Yeah,
I,
well,
I
being a
can't.
Yankee fan, right?
I totally. I'm like in my head. I'm like, of course. Who wouldn't love Ortiz? And then,
Yeah,
yeah, I get it.
but one of the things that did make me smile is when you guys traded Mookie. And to this day, I still understand why you guys did it. Unless Mookie comes out and says, I told him behind closed doors I wasn't resigning, so it makes sense to get rid of him. But why would you get rid of a talent like that? A future Hall of Famer, a champ. Oh, he's so good.
So it was a combination of things like resetting payroll and
Mm,
dumping arguably one of like the worst baseball contracts right now in David Price.
the fair price.
Um, did they get back anything? No. It's gonna go
Right.
down as, especially in recency bias, it's gonna be like one of the worst trades.
Hmm.
What Boston's able to do with cap space in the next couple of
Yeah.
years may change the narrative just a little bit, but it's going to be hard because you trade a superstar in the offseason and then he ends up winning a World Series with that next team.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you either continue to build the already giant that is the LA Dodgers, and now they're going to
Mm,
win 3 of the next 5, or you find a way to come back down to earth, reset, try to get some of your good prospects in order,
mm.
spend a little bit of money, but not getting to the luxury tax, and make a run at it again. The Yankees, I don't know, man. Like the Yankees are good, but
Um, yeah, we got to get DJ back. We have to resign that guy. Like last thing I read, they're 25 mil apart. But
yeah.
we have to get him back. That guy's like one of the best pure hitters in baseball. The rumor of
Apparently the
getting,
Jays are in on him too, right?
yeah, I think Bichette was kind of champion for him a little bit there, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if we can get Lindor, which I don't think is possible, and move Torres to second, his natural position, I'll feel a little bit more better. The pitching has to tighten up a bit. Like we'll talk as a free agent. All we have right now is Cole and Severino. If he comes back off injury, we don't know how he's going to perform. But the Yankees will find a way. I have to be one of those cocky Yankees.
They always do.
We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way. We brought in Bergen Wells one year. We still made the playoffs. So there's hope.
Yeah. How's that Jacoby Ellsbury contract? That was great.
That was yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
No, it's funny because I cheer for the Blue Jays when they don't play the Red Sox. When they play the Red Sox, I'm obviously a Red Sox fan. But I actually even like messaged Trevor Bauer's agent, Rachel Luba, who I've spoken about many times on the podcast, and the goal is to hopefully have her early in once her clients sign. And I said, listen, Toronto would be a great place. Canadians very forgiving people after what happened in his playoff run against the Blue Jays, but
2016.
yeah, and so he would be phenomenal. So I'm all about the Jays getting better
Mhm.
when they're not playing the Red Sox. And for me, the lines kind of get blurred even more because I play in a very competitive fantasy baseball league. And
Okay.
so one of my cornerstone pieces was actually DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres. I had them both on my team. And so like I found myself in the box score rooting for them, but like
Right.
in real life being like, God, I hope they suck.
Yeah.
And
That's a
when
tough thing about fantasy.
and that's it. And Glaber had the crazy year when he hit like 18 home runs against the
Mm.
Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I love it. I love it because I'm on my way to a championship. But like, if you could stop winning games, I'd be
Be
cool with that
perfect.
too.
Right. I
And
love
so,
Glaber.
yeah, and I think fantasy sports has really changed that a lot for people when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
their fandom because I would say like we're in a generation where we still have loyalty to teams
Mm-hmm.
and newer generations have loyalties to players.
So that's the
Um,
thing. Sorry, not to kind of shift gears. But that's the thing that kind of annoys me with the NBA right now is how players sign a max year contract and then 2 years into the max they want to do a trade. And it's just hard to keep rooting for a team because that team is constantly being changed. Um,
100%.
so you just gotta end up following the players. And it seems like me and you are cut from the same cloth where we have our team. No matter who's on that team, we're still gonna root for that team. But nowadays, I agree with you. With fantasy, with the way player movement has impacted the game so much, it's hard to just be like, I'm a fan of this team outside of
Right.
college sports. But like for
For
professional sports, it's hard to do that.
even now with the transfer rules though too, right? College
Mm,
sports now, I mean, you don't have to sit out a year anymore. And that's a big thing because when you have two starting, quarterbacks who are both great and you're thinking, okay, we just have to wait 2 more years, this guy graduates and then we're set. After that first year that he doesn't play, he's gone. Like look at
right,
Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen, perfect
right.
example. Leaves Bama, goes to Oklahoma,
Mm,
killing it. Now he's the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, who just replaced their star future quarterback in Carson
right.
Wentz. And now even he's like, if I'm not going to be the guy, you need to trade me. So
I'm gone, yeah.
it's all over sports. It's a mess. Just to get back to the last thing. So I feel like we talked about a lot, but my biggest story, Jeter's going to come in a little bit later to when I talk about the biggest winners of 2020. But the last major story I have of 2020 was the changing of the mascots or team names. For the
Mm,
longest time, the Washington Redskins, now
right.
known as, and may forever be known as, the Washington football team, were standing in the way of some barbaric names that have been around for many
Mm,
years. In the case of the Cleveland Indians, 105 years, and it's now coming to light that change is going to happen. And I just that's one of my big stories because Washington Redskins going, Cleveland Indians going, the Edmonton
mm,
Eskimos are on the chopping block as well. What comes next? Maybe a Chicago Blackhawks name gets changed.
yeah. The
Um,
Braves.
the Atlanta
What
Braves,
yeah.
the Florida State Seminoles. I mean, like,
Mm,
we're not just talking about names, we're also talking about logos. And shout out Toronto, shout out the
mm,
Canadian government for putting in an injunction that prevented the Cleveland Indians from wearing their Chief Wahoo logos while playing in Toronto. I
yeah.
mean, that's one of the huge things. Does it mean that they started this change for the Cleveland Indians? Probably not.
Mm,
But again, it's one of those things that once it happens with one team, that stone starts to get
yeah.
bigger, that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger,
Right.
and then now we're seeing the sweeping changes in 2020 that we really should have seen, you know, 5, 10, 15 years
Right.
ago. At least it's happening. What do you think about team names or mascots changing due to inappropriate references?
Oh, I think I'm 100% on board. The Braves, the tomahawk chop, I
Yeah,
still can't believe why people do that. And I've been seeing that my whole life, especially in the World Series when the Yankees played the Braves. But and even just the Cowboys and the Redskins playing on Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Like how
That's
blatant do you want to make this be? So it's happy. I'm happy that this is finally coming to the forefront and there's some noise that's going to be made and things are happening. And that's a great thing about this day and age is that there's actually movements happening. There's people that are screaming on the top of their lungs for change. They're not going to give up or nothing's going to get in their way. And we need that. We definitely need that going forward. I think that it sets things up perfectly for the next generation to see that, if things don't look right, don't just sit in the back. You gotta speak it into fruition, and things will happen. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with getting rid of all these crazy, outrageous sports team names.
Now, people will say social media is like destroying the youth of today, but
Mhm.
without social media, none of this stuff happens in the time frame that it's happened now.
Right.
Because back, you'd have to wait for newspaper reports, and then how do you rally these things?
Mhm.
Whereas social media now, it's a click of a button. Sure, a 15-year-old kid is like the face of TikTok right now in the
Yeah.
world, but because you can send out a tweet or a DM or a post and receive that information almost immediately, or a news article goes up immediately, you can have sweeping organized change.
Mhm.
And this is really the left hand talking to the right hand for the
Yeah.
first time, which has been there's been such a void for that in previous years. I love it. I'm curious
Mhm.
to see what the Cleveland Indians do. I'm curious to
Yeah.
see what the Edmonton Eskimos do. Washington says they're keeping their name. So I'm very interested to see what the next, 18 months sort of looks like when we see what the actual changes are, and whether or not someone comes back with something that is more of an honor. Like
Mhm.
maybe they get rid of Indians, but they come up with another name because they, connect with their local First
Right.
Nations group or something. Even then, I think it'll probably be too touchy, but I think that would be important. I think it would that could
To
work.
show
I mean, they're
homage.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Definitely.
And so that would be those are my five sort of stories for 2020. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything that I missed or thought maybe could have been on the list?
I guess not to go back to being a Yankee fan, but I guess being a Yankee fan, the Astros cheating was on my list.
Yeah,
Just the way they did it, and because they beat the Yankees and won the championship that year. I'm just more bitter than anything. So that was on my list. Just to show Toronto some love. The Blue Jays finally making the playoffs again with this young core and setting up what could be a great run in the future. That was on my list, and just Brady going to the Bucks.
yeah. See,
Just leave in New England.
so that's gonna bring us into the biggest winners and losers of 2020, and
Okay.
so the Houston Astros are on that list of biggest losers. You know,
I co-sign a million times with you on that one.
And so it's a story that sort of got swept under the rug. It was like tons of media attention when it first happened, but
Mm.
sort of got swept under the rug because of COVID, you
Didn't
know.
get didn't get the punishment that they deserved.
And the excuse as to why they didn't get it was kind of tough as well,
Hmm.
because the excuse was, well, we're not going to punish players, they're going to different teams, it's not fair, yada yada yada, so we're going to fire the general manager or suspend the general manager and bench boss, because we told them that if this ever were to happen, this is what
Yeah.
the cause is going to be. And my Red Sox also are on the list of biggest losers in 2020. I can't say that they aren't. What they did was pretty dumb. They fire their coach, ultimately know that they're going to bring him back in about a year, which they
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
But for me, Major League Baseball, outside of one story, is actually one of the biggest losers of 2020. That goes from
Mm.
Manfred to the Astros to COVID-19 protocols.
Mm.
The only positive light for me, outside of the Dodgers winning,
Mm.
is the hiring of Kim Ng by
Yeah.
the Miami Marlins. For
Yeah.
me, that is the greatest thing that Jeter has done in his
Mm.
career in baseball. I think it's the right thing to do. I think
Hmm.
has an affiliation with the Yankees. Obviously, she worked in
Hmm.
that organization under Cashman. And so I love the fact that we're able to see someone deserve it in that role. I mean, Rachel Luba falls
Yeah.
into that as well. Agent for probably the most sought after free agent this year. And she's, steps in and it goes into that boys club
Hmm.
and is just kicking ass and taking names. The year of women in Major League Baseball, ultimate winners of 2020. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely turning the corner there. I agree. I want to give Jeter that credit, but she, I knew a little bit about her being with the Yankees, but when I read up more about her, she honestly deserved this position, this promotion, this role. She seems to be like one of the best from what I've read from her resume. Being part of those championship teams, how she helped develop them, how she helped scout them up. She easily deserves that role. I'm glad someone gave it to her. Selfishly, I'm glad it was Jeter, but Yeah, she deserved that 125%. My loser I had were the Clippers.
Ah, I
Like
love it. Tell me why. Tell me why. Please tell
blowing
me.
that three, like blowing that 3-1 lead, the cockiness that they had, and I'm a huge Kawhi Leonard fan. I love Kawhi Leonard, but Pat Beverly, Morris, Harold talking all that smack, all that cockiness, telling. I remember Pat Beverly was saying like, "Why are you guys leaving so early in there before COVID came to the fans because they're blowing out a team." And then you're up 3-1 against a Canadian kid, and then he shuts you guys all down. And Paul George can't do nothing. Now your coach is to find shots at you from all the way in Philadelphia now. To me, they're just the biggest losers. They have the biggest egg on their face. And as much as I love Kawhi, I do love it because like even Lou Williams, I'm not the biggest fan of, and then Pat Bev, these guys. I wasn't even a Doc Rivers fan either, so just it was all a great mixture for me.
See, for me, it hurts my heart to to see Doc Rivers go
Mm-hmm.
because for me, when Rivers was coaching the Clippers, it meant that the only championship team ever coming out of LA was going to be the Lakers. I was never
uh,
worried that the Clippers were going to bring home a title under that regime.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan either. I think he's kind of overrated. And I don't mean overrated like he's not a good coach. It's just to be in the same conversation as the all-time greats like the Pat Rileys and the Phil Jacksons and the Larry Browns. He's not in that category in my opinion. Like when they won with the Celtics, I thought Tom Thibodeau had a lot to do with that defensively than Doc Rivers did. But I think Doc Rivers is great when it comes to talking about social justice things and bringing light to those situations. But as a coach, yeah, I think he's a bit overrated, and I was kind of happy that he lost another 3-1 league in the postseason.
Absolutely love it. My friends over at the Good Rookies podcast are just, I'm sure they're just enjoying how much that I enjoyed the Clippers being unsuccessful. Another one I had, NCAA. The NCAA coming out as one of the biggest losers. Again, going
Yeah,
back to March, going back to just before March Madness, they were still contemplating having these college kids play their conference tournaments and then trying to
mm-hmm.
find a way to do the NCAA tournament and then coming up with ridiculous protocols for how college
Oh, yeah.
football was going to start. I mean, what are
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on the NCAA?
I think the NCAA has always been a somewhat of a joke. I think college football, I can't stand it. I can't watch it. I think it's horrible football. Um, yeah, that's kind of like my quick rant about the college football. And I love March Madness, but what they're trying to do during COVID, I just thought was just insane.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep like they waited so long to cancel the March Madness tournament when clearly every league was shutting down. Clearly there was cases going up around the country, and you're still trying to find ways to put these kids' health in danger. I just thought it was ridiculous. But college football, I'm just not a fan of. I can't support it. I can't watch that. I can't watch it at all. I just don't get
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't know. I don't understand how college football prepares these guys for the NFL. It's a completely different game.
for sure. I mean, what I don't understand is how you're going to prioritize athletes over regular students. How are you going to
For sure.
say that every college student needs to stay at home and do remote learning, but we're going to bring our student
Mm,
athletes onto campus? They're not going to be learning on site, but they're going to be
mm,
practicing and getting ready to play football because we care more about money than we do about
mm,
safety. And the NCAA canceled more games than any other organization this past year because they weren't taking this seriously. Their whole system sort of became a joke, and NCAA, who already had egg on its face in the first quarter of 2020,
mm,
is the exact same NCAA that has even more egg on their face now after they just butchered the handling of the college football season.
mm.
NCAA, you suck. That being said, fight on Trojans. That's my squad. But
Actually,
yeah,
I'm shout out to Memphis Tigers. Penny's my favorite basketball player of all time. So him being the coach of that team, I'm definitely rooting for them.
there we go. Now, biggest storylines heading into 2021. Um, for me, this I'm suffering from recency bias, and that is Charlie Woods. My goodness, is this kid not going to have as much pressure as maybe LeBron James did, but at a much younger age? This kid can golf. Did you happen to
Yeah,
see this past
I saw
weekend?
I saw bits of it. I mean, he hit his driver of 175, I think it was. I just took up golf this year. and I was barely hitting it like 30 feet.
Oh wow.
Let
Okay.
alone like I was struck because I grew up playing baseball my whole life. Like I'm letting go of the club with one hand.
Right.
I'm posing. I have this complete baseball swing. I'm not straightening out my arm. All these techniques I'm supposed to do. I got better. I'm better at it now than I was at the beginning of the year. But to see what this kid did on the weekend, and I saw the videos on the weekend, which is unbelievable. And to you have Tiger's DNA in you, and you're doing this right now. I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid, right?
100%. I mean, if you do like the side by side that they were doing, like
Yeah,
he's a spitting image of his father. He's got the golf. He's got the looks. He's a good looking kid. I mean, he's got superstar written all over him, and he's joking around with the pros. I mean, this ends one of two ways: terribly wrong in some sort of awful situation, or he's the greatest golfer of all time. I think
yeah,
there is no in between. That's my thought. But I want to see more Charlie Woods in
yes.
2021.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him in competition. You hit the ball 175. That is insane. That is insane.
His chipping, his putting, his overall game is incredible. Another storyline for 2021 for me: Patrick Mahomes,
Hmm.
who arguably had the greatest 2020 of any athlete. So
Yeah,
wins the Super Bowl, gets paid,
yeah,
becomes an owner of the Kansas City Royals, donates money to make Arrowhead. Again, maybe that stadium needs a name change.
yeah.
Arrowhead as a polling station by donating his own money, gets married, maybe ends has another back to back, or sorry, maybe he gets MVP this year, or maybe another Super Bowl appearance. I want to see Patrick Mahomes in 2021. My favorite football player, Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. Don't at me, anybody. He's the GOAT. But Patrick Mahomes might be coming at that crown a little bit
Yeah.
sooner than people are anticipating.
And he started this year with that comeback win against Houston in the
That's
playoffs
right.
before,
That's right.
right? So he started this year off with a bang right off the jump, and he's still going stronger than anyone. And I agree, he's definitely going to be in that conversation amongst the greatest quarterbacks of all time because he just has that skill. I am also with you. I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Excellent.
I had that debate again last night and went into this morning because I have a friend who just hates Tom Brady with a passion. Um, but yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's such a hybrid.
And again, he's, if you think about his story, is behind Alex. I think it's Alex Smith for a year,
Mhm.
and I mean he's talented, but he's the guy who's like, wait your time and then you're good to go. And he just, as soon as he was handed the reins, it was over.
Mm.
He was just completely dominating. And so the last one. All right, one more. Do you have another story going into 2021?
Uh, oh, for stories going 2021, I
Yeah.
had well, I'm kind of interested to see how Durant's going to do in New York with that media and on the Nets, seeing how he can act really sensitive at times. See how he's going to deal with the New York media. And I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm really curious to see how he's going to handle it. I know I shouldn't be saying that in public, to be honest with you, but it's just all like as a kid, I spent a lot of time in New York, which is why I'm a
Right.
Knicks fan and a Yankee fan. And I'm a Bills fan, but that's a different, obviously not Manhattan. But
Right.
yeah, Durant with the Nets, and then I'm kind of curious as being a big baseball fan how they're going to deal with the playoffs next year. They're going to keep it expanded. They're going to have the same rules they had this year. Then next year, I'm just kind of curious to see how that's going to work out because I personally love the playoffs this year. I think cut the regular season a couple of games short, get more teams into the playoffs. Let's generate more money for these teams or these cities. Let's get more teams in there to have opportunities to win it. Because in baseball, you could be a wild card team and still make the playoffs. It's not like
Right.
in the NBA where like normally the top four teams, one of the top four teams makes the NBA finals. And hockey's kind of like that as well, where the eight seed can win go all the way to the Stanley Cup. But baseball
Yeah.
playoffs, I find, is the best playoffs out of the four major sports, and anyone has a chance to win.
See, I
So I
like
would love to
that.
see more teams. I'd love to
I,
see more teams in the playoffs and more opportunities for these guys.
I like the expanded playoffs because we had the dream
Mhm.
that Miami Marlins could just like completely flip Major League Baseball on its head and make a
Yeah.
run. I think I'd love to see the same rules that they had. Like I love the 7 inning double headers. I loved the playoffs the way that it was formatted. You just
Mhm.
played. You just kept
Right
playing.
to
I thought
stay
it was.
goal.
I loved it. So you knew how to build your team, and I think a lot of teams are going to now figure out, okay, if we're going to do it again this way, we may have to build our team a little bit differently than we would
Mm.
traditionally do it. But one of my last major story going into 2021 is will a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup? Because now we have the North Division. So all Canadian
Hmm.
teams are going to be playing each other, whether in Canada or in the States. You know, it guarantees that at least two Canadian teams are going to be in, they're going to make the playoffs and have a shot at, sorry, four teams make the playoffs, I think.
Four. Yeah,
Yeah, four teams. So two
four.
teams have a chance of making the semifinals
Yeah, yeah.
for Stanley Cup. I love it. I want to see, maybe this is what they need. There's one less team in their division. Every other division has one more team than them. This could be the year. I don't want to say it too loud. I don't want to jinx it.
Knock on wood.
The Leafs. Here's my bold prediction: the Leafs are winning the Stanley Cup. I said it. See, that's it. The Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup in 2021. I say it. We're recording now, December 21st. As of at the end of June or July or whenever the season's going to actually end, Toronto Maple Leafs crowned Stanley Cup champions.
As a Torontonian and as a company man for Sportsnet, I pray you're right. I pray you're right, because that would be a lot of positives for me in my life, both personally and professionally. So I pray that this comes true. And if it does, please have me back on so I can thank you. So I can thank you for everybody.
So I want to transition from sports to another interesting topic. Obviously, recording this around the holidays, so I have to ask. Holiday movies, they're a thing. People have debates. Is Die Hard a holiday movie? Is it not? I don't know. But for me, my two favorite holiday movies, one, obviously Home Alone. It's like an original. I remember just growing up with it. And then the other one is like a terrible movie, but Jingle All the Way. Those are like my two holiday movies that are go-to. You said before the podcast you had like a controversial take. Let's hear it.
I do. So the movies I like to watch, I don't have a lot of favorites, but Santa Claus I used to watch a lot as a kid with Tim Allen. Something my mom would watch every year. And like Elephant Four Christmases I really like. But my debate I have every year, and I want to put this on wax. To me, Die Hard to me is not a Christmas movie.
Thank you.
And to take it one step forward, Home Alone is not a Christmas movie.
Home
Alone is not, to me, it's a movie set around Christmas time.
Oh man! All right.
I think you can have that same movie and do it instead of having a Christmas tree. Like say for Home Alone 2, you have a birthday wish. You can have the exact same movie, and they can have the exact same outcome.
Okay.
You have a summer vacation around a birthday. You make a birthday wish. Family comes back. Bada bing, bada boom. You go back home.
Okay. Oh man, I shouldn't have waited this long on the podcast to have this conversation. Jeez. Okay, so I respectfully disagree.
All good.
I mean, I agree Die Hard is not. It is based around Christmas time, but there are aspects of Home Alone that tie into Christmas. Okay, sure, you're talking about the summer vacation. 100%, I get you could flip that. But the idea of reconnecting with family over the holidays, over a special occasion, the manger scene plays a small but important part in his escape from the wet bandits.
The first one, right? Yeah.
Exactly, the first one, yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, I can understand the argument being made because many people have quickly come to that explanation when they say, "Oh, well, Die Hard. If Die Hard isn't one, then Home Alone isn't." I think that there are too many, at least in the first Home Alone, that draw to the spirit of Christmas and family and get together that another holiday doesn't really bring people together for. If you think about the crazy, not the crazy old man, they make him see like a crazy old man, but the guy who's got like the shovel who ends up saving the kid in Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. Again, he reconnects with his family over the holiday, over Christmas. He gets to finally see his grandson and his son. And the second one, again, you still get like the turtle doves, you get the gift giving, the toys for Santa. There's, again, I feel like Home Alone hits closer to home. However, I get it. Totally understand.
I love this. Like, I love to have friendly debates. I love to have conversations. But what if I told you, I think the director even said it's not really a Christmas movie, even though they play it always around Christmas.
I think that just because things aren't intended to be something,
Mm,
that they don't take on something of their own. I think the fact that if you look at the numbers of people watching Die Hard throughout the year, there's not a spike during Christmas time. I
right.
think if you get a poll of when networks are running Home Alone or when people are queuing up Home Alone on like Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything, there's going to be a spike at the holiday time because that's the life that it has taken on by the audience. The audience has made it a Christmas movie, even if the director did not mean for it to take that when they made it. That
See,
would be my thought.
I think Christmas adopted the movie and has made it its own. But I'm
Maybe.
not. I'm more I won't say passionate because I didn't base this point conversations. But the Die Hard one, I just can't. I can
Yeah.
never accept. Like to me, you're pretty much saying like Rocky 4 is a Christmas movie because he fought Drago on Christmas Day, or
Right.
Batman Begins, I think it was, is a Christmas movie, or Godfather is a Christmas movie because he was
Yeah.
buying presents before he got shot on the street.
Yeah.
All these things to me just makes no sense. And the Home Alone one, I have more resistance with because there's more substance to prove that it is one.
Sure.
I just personally just don't think it. I come like my mindset is if Christmas is not the theme, like an elf, Christmas is a theme, Santa Claus, Christmas is
Sure.
a theme. Frost is all those things. Those it's the theme or the Grinch or whatever. Um, so it falls underneath the Christmas like movie category. But for me, at
Right.
Home Alone is just it's just a movie that's based around Christmas that Christmas plays a part every now and then. And then, but I think the main thing is about family. And there's a ton of other movies where you can see across any time of the year that's still about family. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a Christmas movie, but there's more substance to back up the point that it is than say a Die Hard. And I
Right.
agree. I'm glad we agree with that because that would have been a bigger
Yeah.
debate if
Yeah.
you told me Die Hard was a Christmas movie because he says ho 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 or Merry Christmas or something like that at the end of the movie.
For me, one of my favorite parts about Home Alone is like all of the like stories that have come out when people start speculating on like what the McAllisters did.
Mm,
One of my favorite ones is that Kevin McAllister is actually in the mob, which is why he can afford like the
that
$2
massive
million
house.
house
Yeah,
compared to everybody else and to go on vacations and all. To me, like that's always the fun stuff. I love that kind of thing. But
it's
okay,
a good
so
movie too, though. I do think it's a good movie.
yeah, I liked the first one and the second one. Third one not so much, but I think Macaulay Culkin did a great job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Now the last thing I wanted to ask you before I let you go is sports movies. So obviously sports has played a major part in your life. I love a good old fashioned sports movie. If you had to give me like your top three sports movies, or at least three sports movies that you can watch on whenever it's on, you're tuning in and you're sticking with it. What would those three movies be?
All right, so it's not in no order, and this is kind of
Okay.
more at the top of the head because being such a sports fan, like I love so many different sports movies. And this one is probably not on anyone's list at all, but The Fan with
Okay.
Wesley
Yeah.
Snipes and Robert De Niro. I'm a
Yep.
huge Robert De Niro fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. So you put those two together, I'm automatically in. And I'm a big Wesley Snipes fan. So that movie really hit me. I was a big fan of. Above the Rim is my favorite basketball
Okay.
movie of all time. Tupac did a great job in that movie. And then Rocky one. I love boxing. It's probably
Okay.
my second favorite sport to watch. But Eddie Rocky, but mainly Rocky 1, was just unbelievable, I thought.
Interesting. I like it. I like that take. We may have to have you on as a guest. We have a sports movie power ranking type of
Mm.
podcast that we also do. I might have to get you to come on and do
I
some
got
of
a ton. Like I didn't even mention like the Sandlot or the Major Leagues. Like Major League I love that movie, and because I love baseball. Like I even love like what was the movie called? Angels in the Outfield. Like it's not even
yeah.
that good of a movie, but it's just because I love baseball. I would watch that. I'll watch that right now. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Sandlot is my favorite sports movie of
Mm-hmm.
all time. It's just like it's actually in my top five movies of just favorites,
Mm-hmm.
along with like The Godfather, which you would think that like
Oh,
Godfather
love
1
it.
and 2 and The Sandlot, how do you make those connections? For whatever reason, it works in my head. It just works.
We have a lot in
Um,
common. Godfather's my favorite movie too.
oh really? Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Godfather 1 and was like dismissive of Godfather 2, but due to COVID, I've obviously spent a lot of time rewatching things. I actually think Godfather 2, I mean, they're like 1A, 1B for me now.
Yeah.
The third one didn't actually happen. It doesn't exist in the realm of the series. But I think Coppola, as crazy as he was a genius when it came to these two films. So definitely two favorites.
Yeah, Godfather 1's my favorite, only because it's the original. But I think Godfather 2 was a better movie.
I think Godfather 2 is in the running for the best sequel ever.
Oh, yeah. Easily, I can't think. If Endgame is like I don't even think Endgame's a sequel.
No, Age of Ultron would be the sequel.
Yeah, because there's so many of them. But Godfather 2 definitely would probably be the best sequel.
I mean, Mighty Ducks 2 might be the only one, but like it's still not a great movie. But like it was definitely better than the first one.
Isn't that coming back?
Yeah, apparently they're doing a Disney Plus series with some of the original castmates. So,
I wonder if Goldberg will be on it because he hasn't been in the best. Actually, I think last I read, he was doing better than that photo, that mugshot that he had, right? So,
shout out, honorable mention, one of the best people, winners of 2020, Mark Cuban. And so you bring it up because you mentioned Goldberg, and I think of Delonte West, and think about what Mark Cuban did to really try to get Delonte West back onto the right path, and resources and money and time and reconnecting with his family and all that kind of stuff. So shout out Mark Cuban. As much as you're a team owner in the NBA and you're not always viewed in the greatest light, I think the humanitarianism right there is second to none. So shout out Mark Cuban.
When Puerto Rico had that hurricane, I think he gave his plane to JJ Barea to go bring over supplies, his private plane to give around supplies to the country to help them out. So, yeah, he definitely has a big heart.
There you go. Shark Tank. If you're ever looking to have a podcast to invest in, just send me an email. We'll make it happen. Listen, Adrian, thank you for taking the time, man. I feel like there's so much we can discuss in the future, so hopefully you'll come back and we can do another round.
This is great, man.
And listen, seriously, if you need to know some good food spots in Mississauga, you just let me know. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely will, and I appreciate it. This is kind of like the first time I met you, but I feel like we've been friends for just as long as Jake Julio's been friends. So that speaks to your character, and I really appreciate you bringing me on. And this conversation was fun. It was a great time.
Awesome. Now, like you said earlier in the podcast, you're producing a sports year in review. Tell us a little bit more about that. Where can we find it, if on TV or online?
Yeah. So it's gonna be with Sportsnet. Donovan Bennett narrated it. So I wrote it. So shout out to him. That should be coming out, I want to say Christmas Eve, but around Christmas. We should be finishing it up tomorrow, hopefully, knock on wood. But that'll be coming out, and then after that, I'm not sure what exactly we'll be working on. I think might be doing a Aaron Baines feature, but that's been confirmed yet. But yeah, the year in review, look out for that. So much to cover this year, so it might be a little bit long, but stay with it, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Now, if people want to follow you on Instagram or on Twitter, where can they find you at?
Twitter is Adrian, Adrin, Cheddie, Cheddie, all one word. Instagram is Cheddie.
Awesome. Adrian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. For my guest, Adrian, I'm your host, Julian Ortiz of the Big O Podcast. Happy holidays. Happy end of 2020. We finally made it, and looking forward to seeing everybody again in the new year. Be safe, be healthy, and we'll see everybody next year. Take care, everyone.
Yes, sir. Take care.